This is Shay Bynes, founder and chief fire igniter of Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur, and this is the KDE Podcast Live. With a beautifully diverse panel of co-hosts, get ready for powerful and fresh perspectives of what it looks like to be a Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur. Let's go.
Let's go, let's go, let's go. Hello, everyone. Hope you are doing well. We are here with another episode of the KDE Podcast Live, and we're glad you're here. This is episode 451. Woo-hoo-hoo. We have crossed over the 450. Somebody's phone or something is talking to them, huh? Don't that just drive you crazy? You know, this morning I mentioned, I don't know, I'll just say Sky. And Google, who I didn't say anything, Google said, well, in order for us to call Sky, we need this information. And I was like, I didn't ask you. They have minds of their own.
Freaky, isn't it?
Isn't that strange, right? But we are here with Joy, Dory, Brandon, and Phil. And again, we're glad to be here this week. We're going to be talking about how to experience success through intimacy with God. Oh, what? Really? Yeah. For real? Yeah, that's where we're going today. And I'm quite sure Phil gonna bring it, and then we gonna come around and bring it too, right? But what I want to do first is find out how everyone is doing, where you've been since the last time we chatted. Let's start with Brandon today.
Yeah, so what was coming to mind, I've been blessed to be featured in a few articles recently online. So that's been a lot of fun. And even just for those out there, if you're looking to do that too, I just use this free service called Harrow. Help a reporter out is what it stands for. And you can get emails catered to the specific industry that you're in and reply to the journalist and maybe get an opportunity to then have others see what you're writing and are quoted. So that's been a lot of fun for me recently. And then just trying to figure out how to repurpose all of that content and just kind of share it out there with people.
Yeah, I love that. List has been around. Listen, y'all know I've been online for over 20 years. That's how long that list's been around, a long time. I used to use it years ago, but I stopped. So maybe I was trying to figure myself out. Maybe that's when I didn't understand my identity, but I know who I am now. So can you mention that again? Because a lot of people don't know about that list.
So help a reporter out, or HARO.
Yeah.
Is where we go. And again, I just have the free version. There might be a paid version, but I so far have just used the free version. And what I would encourage you, just if that's where God's leading you, start replying to some of these pitches. And then if you really are worried about, well, what if it doesn't get published? Because a lot of things aren't going to get published. Well, then you can just repurpose the words that you wrote and turn that into a reel, turn that into a blog post, or however else. And in that way, nothing is wasted.
Look at that. We'll be bringing you guys more of these kind of tips in 2024. Trust me, it's coming. All right, Dory.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. I forgot all about that service as an author. I think I should probably look into it a bit more. And I do write a lot of blog posts and things like that. So cool. As for me, as you could tell, I'm in full Christmas mode. Our Christmas concert was a great success. We managed to pull it off after months of practicing and a very shaky practice right before the service. But hey, God pulls everything together every time. And we had loads of fun ushering in the season and spending time with the grandkids. We've been going out and looking at Christmas lights. Yes, I have been working a little bit, had a couple of private special needs clients, and that was pretty fun as well. Always good to teach them how to rock out to a Christmas song at the end of our drum therapy session.
Awesome stuff. I love it. You are festive today and you're red. You and Phil. We should have got the memo. Y'all didn't tell us to wear red today.
Come on, guys.
Or green
Get
or
with
something.
The program.
And you didn't let me know.
Hey, it's just the season.
That's all right. I'm gonna look for holidays in 2024 that fall on Wednesday, and I'm gonna tell y'all what color to wear. Okay, we're gonna start doing that. Now, my birthday is the first holiday, January 17th. Oh, I forgot about Martin Luther King. But we'll do my birthday and King, and then I'll tell y'all what to wear. That's what we're gonna do. Okay.
We'll be color coordinated. Tell us what your birthday color is, and we'll be ready. I'm guessing it's teal, but I could be wrong.
All right. Joy.
I wish I had something exciting to share. Both of those sound better than where I've been. I was telling you guys before the call, Robert, my husband, brought a early Christmas present home where he brought a cold home to both of us. And so I haven't been doing anything all that exciting except trying to get over this and maintain my workload that I have. So that's all good.
Yeah.
'Tis the season.
Yeah, I tell you, when you are sick and you are an entrepreneur, it's like I still got some work to do, right?
That's right.
You know, yeah.
That's right. You got to still show up.
Still
Well,
got
in
some.
those sick days, you still get paid, you know?
Yeah,
It's like it is
yeah.
what it is.
Yes, 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 yes. All right, Mr. Bynes, what you been up to?
Well, I've been let's see. The thing that comes to mind is the thing that I just did with Joy recently. And she's like, "What thing did you do?" Well, actually I collaborated with Joy. I actually used her help in as part of my community, help with some of my email marketing for the community, right? And so I just reached out to her. I was like, "Joy, can you take a look at this for me?" And she was so gracious and she took a look. But so it was cool, to experiment with, because she's not officially on the KDE team. So I mean, I didn't pay her for that. She did it for the love of community, right?
Don't be contacting Joy. Don't be contacting Joy talking about for the love of community.
Well, you can love my community through my checking account, but for Phil, I love doing stuff like that. It was fun. It was interesting to kind of banter back and forth. So,
yeah, and it actually plays a little bit into kind of what we're going to talk about today. But I'll hold my water on that. Let me let Latara share what's going on with her.
Well, hey, I love that. I love collaboration. Actually, I'm going to be reaching out to Joy because one of my goals for 2024, well, my words are community, collaboration, and capacity in that order. And I know why God did that, right? So community plus collaboration brings great capacity. So and the ability to move into it. So I'm super excited about that. What have I been up to? I have been marketing and promoting my upcoming 2-day experience that like blows my whole mind, that I actually am only 9 people from my number. I won't tell y'all what my number was, but 9 people from my number. I tell you, it don't make no difference. Why am I keeping it a secret, right? It was 50 people. And it just really amazed me that I almost have 50 people signed up for this experience. And I'm like, okay, God, we can ready to do some work with them, right? What you right? But I'm really excited about that. And I'm just coming back. I was in Texas for a few days. So coming back from Texas and just, on that train with the people. And it was a lot of people. I forgot it was Christmas break, and it was a lot of people. And I people well, but when it's a lot of people on a train, I people different. Let me just say, all right, so y'all know what's been going on with us. What about you guys out there in the audience? There's 3 of you guys. What y'all been doing? Type it in and I'll share it here. I'll just put it up. So we want to know what you've been doing too. While we get into this conversation today about intimacy is everything and community yields the fullness. This is going to be so good. So yummy. All right, Phil.
Well, yeah. Well, you read the title. I'm going to skip the title. I'm going to get to the subtitle I have here. Are you being transactional or relational? And so that's a challenge for us as kingdom-driven entrepreneurs. We can't go into intimacy from the standpoint of being transactional, because that's not going to yield the type of intimacy that is authentic, right? It's not going to yield the type of intimacy that will cause connection at a deeper level, right? And so let me start with the scripture here. I'm going with John 17, verses 9 and 10. I pray for them. I am not praying for the world, but for those you have given me, for they are yours. All I have is yours, and all you have is mine. And glory has come to me through them. And so we see immediately in this prayer that Jesus has with the Father, it's all about the relationship, right? There's no transaction happening here. Everything I have is yours. Everything you have is mine. Everything we have belongs to them, right? They had walked in such a way, Jesus had displayed such a way of living for the disciples that it was all about the relationship. He came to reveal who the Father was, right? And so I'll start with this point here. When Jesus gathered his disciples, he wasn't setting up a system of transactional living. He was collecting those whose hearts were turned towards intimacy with God. He shared the words from the Father, and everyone who could receive those words as children were welcomed into the family, right?
Mhm.
And this piece here, as I was reading over this again, this piece here hit me really, really hard. What the law could not accomplish through transactions, Jesus accomplished through relationship, right?
Mhm.
And so when I think about intimacy, we know that if you've been around this movement for any period of time, you hear Shay say that all the time. Intimacy is everything, right? And so even when we start to understand that intimacy is everything, we have to begin to look at what does intimacy look like for us, right? And so the starting point is it's not transactional, it's relational. Yeah. But what do you guys think?
Even from,
go ahead.
go ahead, Dory.
I'm going to say, a lot of people probably don't think about that until you really break it down. If you're asking God for things, for blessings, I need this, give me this, Lord, then you're treating God like what one pastor used to say, a cosmic vending machine, and that is like transactional. Every situation, you got another prayer and you got another request, but are you really going deep? And is it really a true intimate relationship? Food for thought.
Yeah, I think asking yourself why before you're doing things too, because if you're only doing something so that you can get more money, get more influence, insert thing here, you're probably more transactional in nature. And even that, from what you were saying, Phil, about the law being what the law wasn't able to accomplish, I almost think of that even today. It's like, why are we doing the things that we're doing in our church and in our other communities? How are we showing up from a serving perspective? Because if it's only hey, let me check off some boxes, we're getting it into much more transactional, or that almost religious mindset, if you will, versus being spirit led, which is going to lead us to much more relational experiences.
Oh, so many thoughts are swirling through my head. When it comes to building authentic relationships, which is part of what I teach through my business on how we can connect with people, I think one of the biggest things we can do is we can listen, and I mean sincerely listen to what is important to other people. My 83-year-old mom, I love her. She started this new thing lately where she's like, that person, I could tell they had a checklist when they were talking to me. They had a checklist. And she goes, I don't want to talk to them because I was on their checklist. And people can sense it. It doesn't matter what age you are at. If you are not authentically engaged in listening, or maybe you're just waiting to respond because you've got a point and you want to share it. And it doesn't matter what the other person shared. I mean, they're going to check out because it's all about you. We live in a me-focused society. So why not use that to your advantage? Jesus did. He listened to what was important to other people. And that's where he built those connections and relationships.
Oh, yeah, Joe, that you just covered just about every networking meeting and everybody who tries to connect on LinkedIn. They're not thinking about you at all. It's, they have that checklist. I have to reach out to X amount of contacts and I'm going to share what I do. And I'm not going to ask them a single question about them or what they do because I don't really care because I just want to sell them something. That's definitely transactional.
Yeah, that's good. I get these messages on Instagram. I got one last week and he started out saying, "Hey, this is so and so from so and so's team, and I just want you to know we just love what you're doing over there with the kingdom work," or something. He said. I could already tell. I said, he ain't even a believer. He's just trying to get me to come in. I could tell the way he was wording it, and so I played with it and I said, "Well, I don't even know who so and so is, so I have no idea what team you're on, But thank you." He said, can you boom, 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 and some question. I said, well, the answer is ABC. And I'll tell you what, if you're trying to sell me something, I'm good. He didn't respond back because it was not him trying to build relationships. He wanted to sell me Xander's or somebody's stuff. I'm not interested in that. And that just totally turns me off. And I'll call you on the carpet about it. If I recognize it, I'm gonna call you on the, especially if you're trying to market to me, because I don't believe in that. To me, that's tacky marketing. I believe in marketing that is relation based. I've been doing that for years, and it has never let me down.
We can keep going, Phil. What you got?
Oh, that's good. That's good.
We'll have a whole conversation around that.
That's right.
I'm steeping myself in that. That's good stuff. Yeah. When I think about being in community with God, because this is key. Like Jesus was laying out in that scripture that, I'm praying for them, but I'm one with you already. So everything you have belongs to me. So I'm not coming to you to get something from you. And everything you have belongs, everything I have belongs to you. And they have access to all this stuff too. And I tried to show them that they are one with you as well, right? Mm-hmm. So if we come to community from that standpoint, with that in mind, we can realize that God already has everything. We can't do anything for him, right? So then we don't come to him like trying to be transactional, right? The challenge is religion will teach us that you have to do something for God. If you're not doing something for God, then, you're not worthy of God, right? But the truth is God has already laid everything out for us, right? And to help us see that we couldn't do anything for him, he went ahead and laid the law out for us too. Like, okay, if you can be good on your own, do it in accordance with this. No one could do it. Only Jesus was able to walk that out, right? So that should free us from this attempt of being transactional. But, the world is the world. We fall into into this community overall that's called the world, right? This earth. And some things we just pick up because we're in communion with people of this world, right? But if we want to be kingdom in our approach, we have to get to the understanding that we can't do anything for God, right? If God is doing everything for us, then all we have to do is worry about, okay, God, what do you have for me? When we worry about what God has for us, then we also can get away from looking to other people to be our provision as well. For other people to be a transaction. Because now we understand that everything comes from the source. Everything and everyone else is a resource. We're not looking to them to do anything for us. So then that frees us up to be non-transactional in our other relationships as well. I mean, I know it's easier said than done, but it all starts with coming to the understanding that God has given us everything. We're one with him. We're one with Jesus. We have everything we need. And because we have everything we need, we don't have to look or take advantage of anyone else to get what we need in life. Matter of fact, we'll learn, like, if we're being more like God, we're learning how to give the advantage.
That's good. As you were talking, I was thinking about, and when you remove the need for the transaction, then that's when you go into the relationship part, and it builds a certain intimacy. And intimacy, it has levels, right? So I believe that when I go live, because of how I relate to people, that's a level of intimacy for me. For me, it's also a little bit deeper because, well, God's told me to be a little bit more vulnerable when I go live, and I keep things really real and relevant and raw. That's just me. But it builds this trust factor with people, right? Where they're like, oh, wait a minute, I can trust that person. So I'll give you an example of something that happened. Was it last week before last week? The thing that I was talking about that I had put out, when God gave me the price around it, I was like, that's like almost 100. That's almost free, Lord. That's like, because it's $197 service. And I'm like, $20.24. You sure? Yeah, that's what we're doing. But what ended up happening was there was this level of intimacy that was built between myself and someone else just in a prophetic word that he gave me, right? A prophetic message. And I realized, wow, wait a minute. It's not about a transaction because the message he gave me was on point. It was like, yep, that's where I've been. Yep, that's what's happening. And you don't know nothing about me other than what you see online and what you may have met in person one time. And so what I saw was this sharing that began to happen. And then I saw all these people that I don't know. Most of the people that purchased it, I don't know these people. I was like, who are these people? I always expect to see people I know because I have a very loyal community, because I am relationship based in how I connect to them. And they'll buy just about anything I put out there. I could take this cup and say it's for sale. And these people, they'll buy it, right? But I sat and I watched people that I'm very intimate with, Shay and Tony, and people I'm not as intimate with. And they're sharing these things. And as they're sharing them, the sales are coming through. And I'm like going, whoa, right? And we're talking about how to experience success through intimacy and community connection. Because I'm connected to the same community that this gentleman is a part of in some way, he sees me. And because he sees me, he's like, and he's a person that has some pretty good influence. And so most of the people who have signed up through his share. That was one of the most powerful examples of what we're talking about today, right? Especially when it comes to your business, because we look at words like intimacy and we think, that ain't got nothing to do with business. It got everything to do with business when you belong to God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and see, Latara, that whole connection piece, when people really connect with you and they relate and they automatically want to help with no strings attached. Many of us, I'm sure, share other people's posts or, try to help out in some way. And folks who are listening, that is free. That's a free way to help others. If you see that they're doing something, share it. Don't just look at it and scroll down. Like, comment, and share, because that could really bless others. Number one, it builds community and it builds the kingdom.
Yeah.
It's a win-win-win.
Yeah. And I want to say something. The reason why I know he shared is because of the prophetic word that God gave him to give to me. Right?
Even better.
So that's another level of intimacy there, because he's never shared anything else I put out. And after less than a week after he received that word, he saw that come through and he was like, I think this is a direct relation to what God was showing him about my business and where it was and where it's going. That's a whole nother level of intimacy that a lot of entrepreneurs ain't even ready for.
Yeah, that's so good. I have this here. We have because he provides. Talking about God. He gives because he loves. We learn how to love because he shows us how to love as our good father, right? And so, like, sometimes God would give us something outrageous to do, because I know the price point that Latara put out there was a God thing, right? That's not something she would have chose herself, right? But God, in his infinite wisdom and in his loving capacity, in the fullness of his love capacity, said, Latara, I want you to give it at this price, right? And just by you doing that, it unlocks something that he was already doing in others that would see it, right? He already had purpose to bring people into connection with you. And he also purposed probably to give those people the advantage by giving it to them for a discounted rate, right? But all this stuff he orchestrates for our good, right? Because we love him. We're called according to his purpose. He loves us. He loves everybody, but he definitely loves his children, right? And so it's like, that's something we can't get if we're too focused on the transaction.
Yes.
Like going back to the transaction, let's talk about our businesses. If we're so focused on the transaction with our clients, and we're thinking about, I'll start with myself, massage. I'm thinking about, man, this person don't pay me enough. Or I'm thinking, oh man, I want this person to come in because they pay me this much, right? And I'm so focused on that transaction that I might miss the subtle, clues that God is laying down for the person that he's bringing into my atmosphere, into my sphere of influence. They might have mentioned something that lets me know that, oh shoot, they're going through a hardship right now because they just lost a loved one or whatever the case is, right? And if I'm only focused on the transaction, all the rest of that stuff don't mean anything to me. So I miss an opportunity to show the love of God, which could actually endear me to someone more deeply and actually cause increase in my business. Not that we do it for the increase, but God is always looking for ways to bring us to the heart of who he really is, right? Bring us into the center of who he's called us to be. Show us who we are through intimacy, right? And if we're too focused on the transaction, we'll miss seeing who we really are. You know, we'll be going after the transaction instead of going after who he's called us to be in any relationship.
Yeah, that's good. I could keep talking because I just did the numbers on the difference between what I charge for it and what God told me to charge. And I'm like going, whoo, I could have did a whole lot with it. But it wasn't about that. It really was not, because that was not also my conversation with God around what I wanted to see happen. I never mentioned a dollar figure. I never mentioned that. I mentioned wanting to have a specific amount of people that I've never had before in one setting. That's what I mentioned. Right. And so that's what he blessed me with. But what he also gave me was a whole audience of people who don't even really know Latara Venice.
You sowed a seed for a new ocean of people. I'm gonna be quiet and give someone else an opportunity.
I think DeAndrea has a great question there. She says, how do you approach people and relationships that you see could be beneficial on both ends, but don't want to pursue it with shady transactional intentions? My immediate reaction to that question, DeAndrea, is and I know you are, if you're a Christ follower, if you're a kingdom-driven entrepreneur, your transactions aren't going to be shady. You know, you just need to reach out to people and get to know them. One of the things that I do frequently is I love to connect with other siblings in Christ. That's what I call it. It's like, oh, I see you're a sibling in Christ. I have absolutely no ulterior motive. I just want to get to know you. Tell me about what God has you doing in the marketplace. Somewhere along the way, those connections are going to pay off. Somewhere along the way, they might mention me to someone else, or they may come to me for help with something. Who knows? But if you authentically take the time to do what Jesus did consistently, even at the age of 12, where he went in to the teachers and the leaders in the temple in Jerusalem, and he listened and he asked questions. That's how you build relationship, at least in my book.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, Joy, I was going to add for DeAndrea, what I usually do is I set up a Zoom call. I call it a virtual coffee. And we have a chat and I get to know the person a little bit better. I ask a lot of questions and I usually have loads of ideas for them that pop into my head from the Holy Spirit while we're talking. And I freely share those. And then if we see that, hey, you know, there could be an opportunity for us to collaborate in some way, that might come out and it might not. I've given people ideas that I thought in my head, oh boy, that would be great if we could do an event together. But I didn't say it. I just said, oh, that sounds like it would be a great event. And so the woman went off. She created an event, didn't include me, but hey, it's okay. I just wanted to share ideas. And a lot of people sense that and they feel that and they feel your heart. And it just doesn't come across as being shady or, hey, you know, what can I get out of this conversation? I don't approach the calls like that at all. I don't expect anything, actually. I just want to get to know them and see if I can help them in any way. And it usually comes back around in some way, shape, or form. So you never know.
That's good. That's good. We're going to take a break here in a moment, but I want to share something real quick. I'm watching the time, so I have enough time to share this. We'll take a break and we're going to come back. And I see Brandon's. I can always tell when Brandon's chewing on something, like, because it's like his mouth is really chewing on that thing. But you know, you said something, Dory, and even in a conversation with someone, there's nothing wrong with mentioning, hey, that would be a good conference to do. You know, we should talk about that. This book came out of that. with Jolanda. Jolanda started out as my mentee in Igniters, and we became really good friends. I did some soul work with her afterwards, and we were just talking one day, and she said we should write a book together because she started doing the soul work. She's a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't about the transaction; it was about the relationship and the ability we had to pull something
Mm-hmm.
together that would help entrepreneurs to heal.
Mm.
That's the level of intimacy right there. You developed it even in that Zoom call. Right?
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
beginning to develop it. So that's good. I mean, she should have concluded you, but I'm gonna be quiet about that because that's why I don't people well.
She didn't get it. That's okay. Next time.
I know. We're getting ready to take a break and we will be back here in a moment. And we're gonna start with Brandon. I'm telling y'all, he chewing on something over there. He chewing.
KDE podcast listeners, I've only got a minute, so let me get to the point. With the world's economy being so interconnected and unpredictable, we're living in a time when it's hard to know what the future business climate is going to look like. Here at Onex, we're a bunch of Jesus lovers who'd like to help you navigate this crazy financial environment if we can. Not many people are aware, but for more than 50 years, God's precious metals have acted as financial insurance to protect your assets during times like these. Through our online platform, you can buy and sell physical gold and silver in seconds, and at a cost nearly as close as what the big financial institutions pay. To learn how it all works, please visit onex.com/KDE. That's OWNX.com/KDE.
All right, and we're back. And I'm just gonna go on because he's still chewing there. All right, Brandon.
Yeah, so I love DeAndrea's question. I think the fact that you're already asking that, and obviously you're a Christ follower, your heart posture is in the right place, because we also don't want this conversation to sound like we shouldn't be sharing what we do with anyone, because then if we get into this level of false humility of, oh, well, I'm a Christ follower, so I can't charge, and I can't charge these types of prices for these things, or I don't want to do any kind of content marketing or share my stuff because it's not about me, it's all about God. But if we're not stewarding what God has blessed us with, then essentially we're burying our talent. Right? We're not using it to the full capacity. So we're not going into these relationships in a transactional, let's see how much money I can make from a particular person, but also shame on us if we're led to share the thing that God has blessed us with others. And sometimes that sharing requires that person to pay something to us, then we're not stewarding things well. Right. So we also don't want to get on that other end of the spectrum of, well, I don't want to be transactional, so I'm just going to tell no one what I do. That's not what we're preaching either.
Good point, Brandon.
Yeah, that's so good. My answer to this thing is, as we're being intimate with God, and God places people on our hearts, if we ask him about the person that's placed on our hearts, he'll reveal stuff to us, right? This happens a lot with my wife, Shay Bonds, right? She's like, she'll see something and something will catch her attention. And so she'll be like, Father, what's your heart concerning this thing? Why is this person keep showing up in my field of view, right? And she'll continue to carry on until she gets some wisdom from God, or reach out to the person, or just send them this, or just share this message with them, right? And in doing that, we're being relational with God, and God is teaching us how to be relational with our brothers and sisters in Christ, or even if they're not brothers and sisters, because God reveals secrets to his friends, right? And we are his friends, right? And so many a times, as we're talking to him about other people, he'll reveal something that only he could have revealed to us. And then, we'll follow on and figure out, okay, so what do I do with this information? Sometimes he'll tell you, reach out to them and tell them about this. Sometimes he will tell you, don't say anything about what I just revealed to you. just love on them, right? But if we're being relational with God, he'll lead us into how to be relational with others. That's even good. In our business.
That's good. It's just brought to mind for me, since everybody else want to be quiet. Here I go. It brought to mind to me years ago, Dr. Greg Tyler, you never forget some teachers. And I was going through evangelism. So AJ's 31. He was in my belly. So that was 31 years ago. Okay. Going through an evangelism course, and we learned about witnessing. And he gave the most powerful example of witnessing. He's like, just meet people where they are. If you see they like a plant, get them a plant. If you see that you know that they like Amazon, like Latara Venice, get an Amazon gift card, right? If you see, you know, pay attention. I have a friend who every like about 2-3 times a year, because she knows I'm huge on journaling, she'll be like, hey, I got something for you. And it's a gift bag with about 3 or 4 journals and some pens. And she knows I like gel pens. She pays attention to that type of stuff. So of course, when she needs something or she needs me for a specific reason or wants me to go, you know, hang with her to do something, or she's like, hey, listen, I want to do your retreat, but can I pay you every week? Can I pay this amount? Of course I'm gonna do that for her. Not for y'all. Don't contact me with that. But of course I'm gonna do that for her, right? Because we have that level of intimacy. And that's really important in everything that we do, that we have that intimacy that's built through community too, right? Again, intimacy has levels. Intimacy has levels, community has levels. So don't think too, as we're talking about this thing, that we're kind of like, you know, telling you got to be really deep with people and you got to have a really deep community. No, my community at large, again, I am intimate with them, but I'm more intimate, say, with Phil than I may be with Joy or Dory, because Phil and I talk more. We're in meetings more. You know, his wife and I are really good friends. You know, I'm with their girls sometimes when they go hang, when they lead a country or something. It's a different level. So the conversations I have with Phil may be a little bit different than the conversations I have with Joy or Dory, but it doesn't take from the fact that there's a level of intimacy that's necessary to be relational and not transactional. I don't see them as numbers. These are my brothers and sisters in Christ.
That's right.
It's just different levels.
And we all show intimacy to people in different ways. I mean,
Right.
one of the things that I like to do is to ask about how certain things are happening in people's lives, or pray for somebody when they come to mind. And sometimes I feel led to tell them, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes, and you've experienced this from me, Latara, I put a card in the mail because the Lord placed that person on my heart, right? So it just depends on what your special gifting is in building relationships. But I'll tell you one thing that I think we shouldn't do is we shouldn't be engaged in a conversation with somebody and be looking over their shoulder at that other person in the room that you need to go and talk to, because that cheapens the interaction that you're having with that person. I mean, really be focused on whatever it is that you do. And it's hard because we live in this ADD society, if you will, because everything is quick and fast and now, and Google and mobile and social. But really be invested in what you're doing. It'll pay dividends in the long run.
Yeah, and I have to jump in and say that testimony to Joy there. She does reach out on occasion and checks in because the Lord prompts her. And if anyone's joining us late, by the way, speaking of different people's communication styles, yeah, it is going to be Latara's birthday soon in January. So she already mentioned Amazon gift cards and journals and pens. So I think she dropped enough hints that those of us who know her well know. No, we know what to get her now. Thanks, Latara.
Dory, I have to interject here. I haven't said a word about this, but my birthday's 2 days later, so I'm just saying.
While we're throwing out birthdays, mine's the day before Latara.
Okay, well, there you go.
There we go.
Wait, we're going to have an online party then on the next KDE Live. Who's bringing the cake?
That's so good. We're going to have a radical generosity party.
There you go.
Everybody brings something to give away. To our brothers and sisters. That's so good. As I think about intimacy, right? I have here one of God's teaching resources is community living. God demonstrates the perfection of community living by revealing a relationship that is present between Father, Son, and Spirit. Right? They are one, you know. Father's one with the Son's one with the Spirit is one with the Father. They're all one, right? And so then Jesus gives us a chance to walk out relational living as his body, right? So he talks about you're the body of Christ, right? Or the scripture talks about us being the body of Christ, right? Jesus is the head, but we're the body, right? So now we get to experience what it's like to walk in oneness, oneness with each other as part of Jesus's body, as well as being one with the Father, right? And that walking in oneness with each other is the thing that really reveals who the Father is to us, right? Because a lot of us think we know God, right? We're trying to be intimate with God, but we're intimate with God. Our intimacy with him is he has to, what's the word I want to say? I'm gonna say it like this. He has to dumb down his intimacy to the place where we can receive it and we can see what's going on. But we really learn how the Father is by our relationship one to another, right? When we're dealing with someone that's unreasonable as a brother or a sister, and we still find a way to love them the way Christ loved the church, right? When we find a way to do that, then we really get to see, oh, God, you have to do this for a lot of people. You have to do this for the atheists that say they don't believe in you, but you know their heart and you know they do. They're just mad at you and they're tantruming. You have to do this with your precious children that that have become entitled. You have to do this on a much larger scale, right? So when we have community and we're operating and we're learning how to be one with our brothers and sisters, we get a better picture of what it's like, what God goes through being one with us.
Mm.
Mm.
I was having a really good conversation, I think, that ties into exactly what you said, Phil. Just yesterday, I was meeting with a couple entrepreneurs who it's kind of a slower season for them during the winter time, and they're feeling a little bit more kind of exhausted and almost some burnout. And they were talking about some different ideas to grow revenue during this time. And then throughout the conversation, they're also kingdom driven too. And throughout the conversation, they realized, wait a second, we've been so focused on creating these events and generating more revenue that we've forgotten about the relationship piece. Like we need to take a step back here and really focus on how do we serve our community? How do we build this community up and continue to serve them? That's what's going to result in long-term success too. So it was just really cool to be essentially a fly in the wall, just asking questions during that conversation. But it was because of that community that it was able to be uncovered that, whoa, we're actually focused on the wrong things. And then we left that meeting feeling much more, or they left that meeting feeling much more energized because they had clarity on their next step. That wasn't just about the money side, but it was about serving their community and building their community on a deeper level.
I think one thing that's important, though, when we're building community is that we need to realize that it's a two-way street. My husband and I lead several Bible study groups. And in this one particular group that we have, there's a gentleman who likes to talk. I mean, really talk. Like all you have to do is ask him a question and sit back and he'll take over for the next hour if you let him. That is not building relationship and community. That is somebody getting on a soapbox and letting everybody hear what they have to say. So I think that being a good conversationalist, if you will, is also part of this building relationships and community. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, that's good, because that when you do something like that, what happens is that kind of breaks the intimacy and even the ability to build a community. When all you do, I have a chatterbox friend. I mean, chatter. I mean, you can just, again, I never have to talk. I can be with this person for 2 hours and I'm like, they still talking. And all I've said is, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I understand. But yet they'll call me but then it also says something about how someone may see you, because when she needs prayer or when she's like, listen, I'm really hurting, I could, use a friend. Can we go out to eat? And I can pour into her because she's ready to receive it, but I don't see her, unfortunately, the same way she sees me. Because if I go talk to you about something, you're going to start telling me about all your issues around and all this other stuff. And so, it's funny how those things happen and people really don't understand that, it's reciprocal. It's a two-way street here. It's a whole conversation that we're having. And if you're the one that's talking, we're not having a conversation. You just talking.
Oh, great segue, Latara. I want to give a shout out to my fellow extroverts out there. We have a really hard time with silence. So if we're on a call and I try to wait, please somebody else say something, and they don't, I have to jump in. But what I've learned recently is I really have to pay closer attention to how much I'm actually talking in the conversation and how much the other person is speaking. And am I enabling them to get a word in edgewise? And that also applies to your communication with God. If you're the one yakety yakking all the time to God, you're not giving the Holy Spirit a chance to jump in, because there's no space. You can't get a word in edgewise if you're the one who's always talking. So something to think about. Hope somebody needed to hear that today. There you go.
And that takes us right back to listening, right?
Yeah.
Mm. There's power in that. The principle that I like to apply to things, and it kind of simplifies it, is it's you're going to think I'm talking about myself, but I'm not. It's the joy principle. And so if I put Jesus first, others second, and myself last, the conversations, the community, and everything comes out completely different, instead of me being first.
Mm-hmm.
That's a focus on relationship. That's just a framework around putting other people first.
That's right.
Right. And I fully agree. I feel it's almost impossible to build a relationship with someone if you're not asking questions and then listening.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And again, people can really tell if you're genuinely listening, or I think Joy, you brought it up earlier. If you're looking over that person's shoulder to see who's coming up and just giving a couple, yeah, sure. Like people can tell. And so I want to encourage even whether the introverts or extroverts, because sometimes us extroverts can do too much of the talking, but one of my favorite questions that I feel can be just reused even with the same people on an ongoing basis, that really I think kicks open for conversation. Is, hey, what was one of the highlights of your day or your week or your weekend? And you'll be surprised. Sometimes people go super deep, maybe right off the bat. Maybe it'll be a little bit more high level, but regardless, that gives them something to talk about, and hopefully something that they're excited about. And we all like talking about ourselves, but especially things that we're passionate about. So that's just one question that you could ask that could kind of kick off the conversation. If you're like, oh, well, where's the conversation going to go? That's typically a pretty good one.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's so good.
You know, you're right, Brandon. I have actually worked with, in a coaching capacity, with introverts, and the whole networking meetings and things would totally freak them out, because they were worried. Well, what do I say? What do I say? And I said, all you have to do is take the pressure off yourself by asking the other person questions about them and their business. What lights you up? What do what's your favorite client to work with? Just keep asking questions, and you'll be amazed. Hopefully they will reciprocate, but you'll be amazed how easy it is to do conversation and connection at that level.
And then people leave those interactions like, wow, Dory, you were such a great conversationalist when
You
you only
really-
just asked them a few good questions and listened.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. That's good. Asking the right questions, waiting to hear what they have to say. That's how you build a relationship, right? Especially for someone that's never had it done for them before. They're in a family, or they're in a community of people that always are talking, and they can never get their needs met or their feelings heard or whatever the case is, right? And so you just endeared yourself to them when you're able to do that. That's awesome. I have this point here I'm going to jump into. A relationship built upon the foundation of transactions is only as stable as the last successful transaction, right? So think about that for your business, right? If you build all your relationships in business around transactions, your relationships with people that you've been in business with are only as stable as your last successful transaction. So let's say you had something go wrong with you saw a client and you were just having an off day, and you did something that you don't normally do, and it wasn't very professional, right? If all your interactions with that client was only transactional, then that relationship will break down.
Mm-hmm.
You could have had all these good encounters with that client, but this one time you mess up, I never go there again, right? Because everything, it was built on transactions.
Yeah.
So there's nothing holding that person together, nothing holding that person in community with you except for transactions. And when the transaction is no longer successful, they're out, right? But as kingdom-driven entrepreneurs, if we're building relationships based off of intimacy, then we'll have opportunities where we're pouring into people, where we're sharing something with them that's not just about the transaction. When we're giving them something, giving them value without necessarily expecting them to make an exchange, right? If something bad happens, it's like, is everything okay? I had this rough experience, but I know this is not normally how you guys handle business. So I just wanted to reach out to you and let you know that I had this issue. Right? Because there's something tethering them to the relationship outside of the transaction. That's why it's beneficial to be like this in business, because you don't want one mistake to cause you to lose business. Now you got to go out and get a whole new client, right? And you spend a lot of time and effort getting that one client, right? A relationship built on the foundation of intimacy has bonds that don't easily break, right? It is through connections with the right communities that identity gets solidified, right? And so for us to have the right identity, our right identity, and operate from a place of relationship is everything, right? If you're in the right community, then you're around. So you're in a community that's called Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur, right? And we believe in doing business differently than the world, right? So because you're in that community, now when you're going through something, you share something with your community, man, I had this issue with this client and blah blah blah, and I should just cut them off. Because you're in that community, they can help you tap into the trueness of your identity. Well, that's not really how we operate, right? What happens if you had a bad day, right? We're going to hold you accountable to the culture of the community, right? And the community that we're holding you accountable to is the community of the King of Kings, right? But if you were in the wrong community, yeah, man, I hate clients like that. Oh, what? You say they didn't tip? Man, next time when she come in, or next time when he come in, do a really, really bad service. And that'd be a way to get rid of her, right? That's what you would get because you're in the wrong community, right? It's setting an identity that's not really your identity, right? But as kingdom citizens, our identity is like God's identity. He loves the unlovable. He's merciful to those that, don't necessarily deserve mercy, right? And that's what we want in our identity, and that's what we want in our community, right?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. As you all were talking, I thought about actually kind of what Phil said. I'm kind of piggybacking on that a little bit, in that we have to understand too, especially depending on the type of business that you have, is that sometimes, well, really it could be any business, as I'm thinking about different scenarios and the way that I watch customer wars. So these people are a whole other level these days, right? Sometimes we can be, as an entrepreneur, the boss, the one in charge. The transaction thing can hit us hard too, right? I thought about some of the mentees I've had this year, and in particular, one who just blatantly lied to me as to why they were leaving, and turned around and went and did somebody else's program that was kind of similar to what I was doing. And then I wanted to turn around and do somebody else's program, and then somebody else's program, because it was about the transaction and not the relationship. Like, what can I get out of this? Right? And really, they're not getting anything but a bad rep, not knowing that there's talk going around about you and people don't want to deal with you anymore. So we can be on the other end of it too. So you have to also be careful who you allow in your space as a client, as a customer, right? I just think about people who go into a coffee place and just start like ranting on the barista or something, and that, and usually they're told not to come back. Why? Because they were transactional in how they came in. Like, well, I didn't get it my way. And I probably would have said, well, sir, this is not Burger King, but that's why I don't work.
Have it your way.
Right. So when you think about that, this is why, because many of us who are entrepreneurs, especially in this space, we don't really have brick and mortars. There are many of us who and if we do have a brick and mortar, say like Phil, he does have a brick and mortar, but he still deals with clients. Those are clients.
Yeah.
And I'm quite sure he can tell when somebody is just using him, like this person just using me. So there's it's reciprocal. It really is.
Yeah, Latara, that's why listening is key. And when I reflect back over some things that didn't work out last year, the red flags were there. But then I took the client or the opportunity anyway. And I won't do that again. I'll tell you, because based on the questions that they ask, that, they're trying to, really change the program, or they're really concerned about the scheduling. And this doesn't sound like they're really committed, or, an event organizer who doesn't want to do any advertising, but expects the classes to fill, things like that. So I do ask more questions now. I changed my client contract, and I changed a bunch of things just to make sure that I am indeed, listening and choosing to work with the right clients or organizations.
That's right. That's good. That's good. That's good, because I've changed my entire mentoring model for 2024 and on. I mean, I've shifted the whole model.
I had a feeling you can relate to that conversation.
Yes, ma'am.
And that should be encouraging to entrepreneurs too. Sometimes we think that we can't change anything. Oh, what are other people going to think? But if God's leading us in that direction, you definitely should shift that.
Yeah.
I know a lot of us are afraid of change and don't want to shift anything, but sometimes it's necessary. But another thing that I was thinking of too, just kind of along this topic, another practical tip, it's not going to be for everyone, but if you're out there and you really are worried about, am I being transactional versus relational? Maybe from the practical perspective, you look at your business model. Is your business model suited to have relationships over the long term, or is it simply transactional in nature? Right. So maybe that's something, if Holy Spirit's leading you, hey, check your business model. Is there a different way that you could structure it?
The one thing I've been waiting for somebody to bring up, and I guess I will, is you get on these email lists with people, and there's usually several different buckets of email lists that you get on. There's the one that anytime you hear from them, that there's going to be a hardcore press to sell you something. That's it. It's, hey, I'm in their funnel. There's always going to be an upsell. There's always going to be something they have to sell me. And then there's the other bucket for point of discussion, where you hear from the people and they're never asking you to buy something per se. That's not their focus, but they are offering you something of value, something that you can use and apply to your business. And you may never buy from them, but you glean great value from that relationship. And so I think that the choice that we have to make as kingdom-driven entrepreneurs is, when we do email marketing, as the example I'm talking about, are we going to focus on the transaction, and that's the only time we show up and we push people because we want them to do something? Or are we going to start with the relationship part and offer value?
That's good.
Yeah, and a part of that might go unseen, Joy, is we think, okay, well, if we're going to share something with them, we don't want it just to be about the transaction. So now I got to give them a story or whatever. That's not necessarily what Joy is saying, right? And that's not necessarily what's necessary. Sometimes you caring about the other person is giving them what you really think they need. Right? You're not just, I have this new product and I want to sell 100 of these, so let me put it out there. No, you're coming to the community. I've surveyed the community and they say they need this. And so as an answer to what the community has told me, I'm going to share this with you guys, and you have an opportunity to buy this, right? So don't hear what Joy was not saying. Hear what she really is saying, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. I had a thought, but I love what Deandra sharing here, I would like more teaching on authentic relationship with clients. I mean, you know, we're looking at this and here we all are, right? I think, you know, instantly I think about Joy and I think about, you know, myself and I think about Fields. Like those are three people who could be teaching on these type of things, you know, are bringing that into their community. And Deandra is a part of, you know, the KDE community. I believe she's an igniter. Y'all know I am the director of culture at large, not just for Igniter. So I forget who in it. I'm sorry. Sorry. Right. So that's why I brought that up, because it's like, that's a, you know, this is what Phil was just talking about, is that people, I often tell the people that I work with coaches don't have good business fundamentals. Mm-hmm. They don't. I had one coach this morning. I told her about her pricing. And I said, okay, I need to know the package price for your one-on-one. And she came back, well, I'm a little scared of this because they know that I will pull out my calculator in a minute. And she said $50 an hour. And I went, in what year? Like, I gave her the side eye, like, no, we're not going to do that. I said, hey, this is what I want you to do. I want you to do two things. One, get on my calendar for next month. Two, I'm going to be creating, or I'm doing a packaging and pricing training for coaches. I want you to sign up for it. Like, yes, she's going to have to pay, but I have a relationship with her and I care about her business and I want it to succeed. And in order for it to succeed, you can't be charging $50 a whole hour because you ain't getting ready to make no money. You have to take on so many clients just to bring in $1,000. Mm-hmm. This is going to wear you out. And you're not going to want to do everything else that God is telling you to do. Right? Good conversation today. Anybody got any last words?
Merry Christmas.
Yes. Merry Christmas. Christmas is it Monday?
Yep, right around the corner.
Hey, is everybody cooking here? I'm cooking. So,
yes, we're making it easy this year. We're not going
small.
nuts.
Yes.
Right.
I gave my mama, I said, I'm cooking these 4 things. Do not ask me to put anything else on the plate. Okay. We're not doing that. Well, Merry Christmas, everybody. We will see you all in the new year. We will not be live next week. Make sure you catch some of the replays. There are plenty. We got a whole bunch of episodes over there on our YouTube channel. So make sure you catch us over there. We are just delighted. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, because we'll see you all in the new year. In the new year, right? With some new things, some new segments, and you guys are going to see some same host, but we're going to have some folks sitting in the seats with us and sharing with us. And I'm super excited about that. So we want to thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you. We love you. See you all later.
See ya.
Merry Christmas, everyone.